Hi.
Hi. Today I want to introduce you Gwyn Emberton, choreographer, performer, dramaturg, dancer, with more than 20 years experience in international contemporary dance.
Yeah.
And we will talk today about project Let's Body Speak and some videos which we watch with Queen, and Gwyn share his experience about how it was for him. And the next moment we will see you with Monty and Madonna on background. See you.
Well, I think for me as an audience or someone watching the videos who doesn't know, doesn't have the experience of the choreographers or I think that it gives a different perspective somehow to like people who I understand, the lives of dancers, choreographers, we're the same people, right? But it allows me to, I don't know, it poses some questions about how artists are making work and why they're making work during the conflict, during the war. And it's, I guess it, I'm not really sure. We were talking so easily before.
Yeah, I know.
And now I'm like, oh,
Yeah,
we're on
okay,
camera.
okay. Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
Just keep.
I will keep
Yeah, keep.
mumbling, I think,
Yeah,
is
yeah,
probably the right word. I think what we were talking about before, about, being here in Sweden, coming from the UK, I'm not in the situation of the dancers or the choreographers in the works. And so it feels kind of fragile or delicate on how to talk about someone else's work when it's a response to something that I don't understand in a way.
Yeah, of course, and I need to say that I asked you to give some answers on very special questions, and it was challenging, and we decided to just talk about it.
Yeah. And I appreciate
yes.
the...
Yes, I know.
But Monty has some stuff to say as well. Yeah, I think when we were talking before, we talked about, or I said that it feels like that there was two of the four works were slightly more abstract for me. So they allowed me to have some distance from it somehow. And it kind of, but maybe that made it easier to watch somehow. Whereas the other two, the Happy Birthday film and with the tanks, with the tanks, that it's much more present, like the situation that they're in. But the one with the tanks, I really liked I really enjoyed the juxtaposition, of the style of the choreography, the voguing kind of sassy. There's a bit sassy without it being over the top, against this backdrop of weapons and destruction, and it was a bit like a fuck you to to everything that is, to all of it. And also, I don't know, you're here in Sweden, right? And this idea that, the men are having to stay in Ukraine and, with the protect. But there was something quite like striking about this woman, this female dancer in that context. But I don't know whether it was a bit like a fuck you to the gender norms as well. It's like, why can't I be? Can you not see how powerful or how strong or how
Yeah, it's when I was in Ukraine, I said to my husband that I really, if I could, I want to go to protect. I mean, if I can use the weapon, I want to do this. But of course, it's because you want to do something which can protect you, or
yeah.
That is why I think, especially when the woman near the weapon, it looks very strong, like message. Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
And also, what to say that this humanity under this. It's very tiny humanity, which can be very destroyed very easily.
Yeah, there's, I don't know, there's such a fragility with, you see this body, or you see against the weapons.
And very beautiful.
Very beautiful, yeah.
Which are very, make this dramatically effect around these weapons.
Yeah. And so it really emphasizes, it reinforces both sides of that, I guess. And then and she also has a mobile phone in it as well, and it kind of says something for me about how my idea of war is that I grew up with thinking about the Second World War, and this kind of this really old where people it was very different. But now this is very modern. This is a very modern way of dealing with war and connecting to people.
And it's connect very with reality, because when you're abstract and it happens somewhere, but the mobile phone, it's very useful thing for you now, and it's somehow to relate it to our reality here
exactly.
from Ukraine.
Yeah, completely.
It's interesting.
Yeah. And I guess also the fact that it's video, it's film, it's using technology anyway. It's even that it's not really where we think of, or how I think, I guess, or how I'm conditioned to think of war. I think of war in this really old-fashioned context where people didn't have technology in that way.
That is why maybe it was a war, but now we have such a lot of technology of everything, and anyway, we have this.
Yeah, for sure. But it's also very much. I don't know. It makes it so much more present. Like now, it's very much at this moment so it makes the abstractness of, or the distance that I would have as being here to a war that's in another place. It actually makes it much more like, I really. It resonates with me more, or like. It gives me these points of access to an experience that I'm not having, like, how would it affect my life? I guess, how would it affect me as an artist, or how would I communicate this, or how would I respond? And then we also talked a lot about the happy birthday, and I was kind of curious about why. Hi, Monty. I was kind of curious about why Happy Birthday, the song in English, and I thought this was really interesting.
And I told you that that is why we use a lot of, it's very useful song for Happy Birthday in Ukraine. Also because I think that this choreographer, when she created, it was for sharing abroad to other countries to be more understandable. Of course, because it was about Happy Birthday.
It sort of made, again, it was a bit like using mobile phones, or even just the fact that it's video or film dance, or dance film, that it kind of puts me in a different space. It's not this thing that's happening to other people, or that it's happening in a different place. It sort of connects to me on an emotional level, very
close to you.
Okay. And I think these, whether they're conscious or not conscious, I think you said that it was a conscious thing to use that, for that artist to use that, to speak to audiences outside of Ukraine. But I'm really struck by the power of that communication, actually, and the choices that they've been making in the work is really, yeah. And because both of those two pieces, you know, if you showed them to anyone without giving any context, because obviously you gave me some writing about it, it would be very clear, actually. Like it would be super clear. You would really understand that these are artists in this, or this is in this context, or it's reflecting on that, this situation, or a situation. I mean, it doesn't talk about Ukraine in them so much, but whereas the other two, there's the last one, which
Olena Dolgikh in a big space.
Yeah. And I think with that film, it made me feel very lonely for the dancer, actually, and very isolated, or that she was very isolated, or I mean the choreography, and I guess she was wearing this long dress, and you know, these beautiful arms that she has, that it sort of reminds me a little bit of Pina Bausch. So it kind of like took me into a world of that, and I guess it was a bit more abstract for me in some ways, where I was able to have distance from it in a different kind of way. I was probably able to feel more comfortable watching it, both from a choreographer or a kind of someone who's watching it with that kind of head on, but also probably from a normal person point of view as well.
And you didn't know what about the song? Maybe it's
I didn't.
So you just now just feel the music. Because it's a song about the war. So
okay.
But you know, in this case, when we have this our national song, and before we have Happy Birthday, so it's how it works.
Yeah.
In this case, it's more abstract for you.
Yeah.
But in this case, it's more close.
And
it's interesting to follow.
That's an interesting test of like those different ideas, I guess, isn't it?
And also maybe it's more, for me, also more about reflection, about reactions, like express what we feel, really, then reflect on it. How do you think?
Because we were talking a little bit about that, weren't we? About like what's the reaction, or the human impulse to scream or to react to the situation, and then there's the artist, or the kind of the cerebral kind of, you know, it's like the animal and the and how those two things work together. Like you have that, but then actually, how do you make that into a work in a way through my lens as a choreographer, or my lens as an artist? I guess it also, maybe it's, I wonder why we do that, and why it's not just the
there's the screaming, but anyway, of course, you somehow to reflect on yourself and then to recreate it to an artistic way.
I wonder why we have to do that.
Why?
And why that isn't enough, or why is that something that we have to view or filter or change or adapt, or
I think really it's something about what we understand when we are sourcing news. For me, I saw only fact, and maybe I need somebody, and also I can do this for myself, to explain me what this means. And maybe when we are just feel and express, but even for me, it's not clear always what is it means for me. It does my reaction, but what does it mean on another levels? So maybe the artistic work gives us this possibility to reflect on what I feel, reflect on what I express, maybe. And then out of this expression that can be very fast and very strong, but we cannot think during this moment. But then when we recreate this in some artistic work, we can share the space with others.
Yeah, it's funny. I don't think I've ever thought about this ever. I think I've always just maybe my work myself has never come from that place. It's definitely a reflection on what I'm feeling, but maybe my feelings, the ones that I make work from, aren't that. Like, it's not something that is like life or death, or like the threat of war, you know, like, and it makes me think that maybe my own life is not so bad, actually, you know, because like then it's
you have another points which you are reflecting on, of course.
Because I you know, my work, not to take just to use as an example, so my work is generally a reflection on how I'm feeling about something in the world at the time. So, you know, I'm in the process of making a work about choice, and about freedom of will, or free will, and which came from Brexit, and I was like so angry with it. But then over time I reflected over it, but then thinking about choice in a more universal thing rather than something that's so specific. And then I guess it is that. Oh my God, I'm like, how old am I? And I'm learning something about myself a lot today.
Oh yeah, nice.
Yeah, thank you for that.
Yes, thank you for our artists to do this for us, really, to create this space for thinking, for talking. About dance.
There was something else, just that thing about artists creating work, to think about it. We spoke before about why is it? Is it necessary, or is it why should artists
have a right to do
the
this?
right to do it? Yeah, absolutely. When like
manipulating, or you know, the theme, why is it not enough to just share my experience, to come to you and share, you know, it was like blah blah blah. But somehow it's not enough.
Absolutely. It's not enough. And I think it's not enough just to see what happens in the news. If I'm looking from here, I see what happens in the news, and it's the thing that's happening on the news, and while it can be really devastating, and I can go, oh my God, that's just awful. But actually, it's when I see it expressed in a different way, when I connect to an individual person who is opening their soul, or opening their reflection, or it allows me to come at it, or to think of it, and to feel a different thing. I'm not being very clear, but it's. You gave an example before of this guy who said, "Oh, I want to sit in the middle about it," and I kind of feel like what's happened in the news is that like so much stuff has been happening, you know, here or in the UK and whatever, that things have been. The war is still there, and it's, you know, and we know that it's still there, but it's also. It's going a little bit, let's not say back, let's say sideways, you know, it's going to the side a little bit because, you know, people can't afford to eat or whatever it is. But then when you see something that connects, like these works, for instance, it allows it to stay with me in a different way. So it's sort of, Whereas I don't shut it off. It sort of touched me in a different place. And it's because it's so much more human, actually. Or it's, I don't know, it connects me to the individual experience so much more, or allows me to empathize a little bit in a different, Whereas if I just see the destruction in the news, I can kind of pull away from it a bit, or it becomes about buildings and about tanks and about power.
Of course. You know, this one of we didn't talk about this video, Julia. It's black white.
Yeah.
And for me, this video was very what I feel, and but I cannot express this. I mean that it's very usually what we feel when these alarms come and your body is squeezing. And I saw, so I wasn't alone, you know. So a lot of people feel the same, and it's somehow I feel myself like easier to go through this, to understand that it's not only my problem, because the war is so big that only one person cannot go through this. It was my last thought when I'm going to come to you, and that is why we need to discuss about why not enough only see and thinking and feeling, why it needs to be discussed, because we cannot go alone through the war, and it's so huge, and it happens so often, and what we can do, just keep it on bright light to talk about.
But also I think, absolutely, but I'm wondering whether it's also part of the healing process that will happen or will have to happen for everyone, in that these are reflections of this feeling of this moment, of this situation, of this moment, and it allows that process for you, for instance, I'm not the only person, and it's how can I reach out to other people to have these shared experiences that maybe we don't talk about it, or it's I identify myself in the work, or I identify that situation in me, and it allows you to heal a little bit from this awfulness. You know, a work I created many years ago was around post-traumatic stress disorder with ex-military who had been in Iraq, Northern Ireland, in the Falklands War and things. And it was created with a theatre company, and they did lots of, they filmed, they did these interviews with these, after about 2 or 3 years of just meeting them. And out of these films, I don't have post-traumatic stress disorder. I've not been in the army. I don't, and it was how do I make a work about someone else's experience? But so taking their testimonials, I looked at the physical manifestation of post-traumatic stress and some of the imagery that came up, and we created this work, and the majority of the audience that came to see it were ex-military, and this one guy said to me, and we had these sweets, in their ration pack, and we had these sweets, and there was these stories that kept coming back with everyone that we met, how when they were in Iraq or Afghanistan, that they would give the kids the sweets and things like this. So all the soldiers, all these ex-military, all had these sweets in their thing. And at the end of the show, at the beginning, we gave people these sweets at the beginning. And I met one of the guys, and he was like, and he was like, I got one of the sweets. And I was like, oh, did you eat it? And he was like, no, I'm going to keep it. Because it's you've given my soul, a bit of my soul back. And for me, it just made me, it just whilst he's doing all this other stuff, like physiotherapy or psychoanalysis or whatever it is, this other process of healing, the process of like coming to watch like two guys like dancing and connecting with a physicality that really resonated with him. And I was like, it's part of that process for him. To see it reflected back in a different way, or posed in a different way, and it just so.
Yeah, it's like be visible.
Yeah.
And somebody else saw you, watch you, and you are exist.
Yeah.
You know, like you are exist in this moment.
Yeah.
You are not somewhere in
Yeah.
the war.
Yeah.
And you are now, and we are with you. Yeah, we saw you.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's right.
So I think, you know, that this absolutely, that, you know, the necessity of dance artists and artists making work. Oh my God, it's so
nice.
necessary.
Yes, you're right. Yeah.
Because it's like you're capturing something that is inside, under the skin, in the blood, and the, you know, that can't be seen in a video, like not in a TV or news report. It's, you know, it's and these it's so important.
Yeah, it's very good now. You know, a good conclusion.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And your also answer means that you answer for me on my own question about, do I need to continue create some work about the war, or just finish this because it's maybe enough to do this, but maybe in other way to continue this. Thank you.
You're welcome.